Everyone talks about Florida having no state income tax. That's a big selling point. It sounds like you're saving money right away, but here's the truth most people don't hear until after they move. When you break down the real numbers, Florida can cost you an extra $20,000 to $40,000 every single year. That's not a one-time hit, that's year after year. And it shows up in ways most people never think about before they move. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly where that money goes so you can see the full picture before making your decision. Hey everyone, I'm Brian O'Neill, also known as the Tattooed Agent. I help people move to Greenville, South Carolina every single week. A lot of them are coming from higher cost states, and Florida is one of the most common places people compare to. And what I see all the time is people focus on one thing, like no state income tax, but they miss everything else that comes with it. This video is going to be different. We're not going to guess. We're going to go line by line through real costs like housing, insurance, utilities, and everyday living. My goal is simple. I want you to understand what your life will actually cost, not what it looks like on paper. The first thing we're going to talk about is housing, because this is your biggest expense and the one that impacts everything else. In Florida, depending on the area, most homes are going to fall between $420,000 and $460,000 or more. In many popular areas, it can climb even higher. Now here's where it gets interesting. In Greenville, the average sales price over the last 12 months is around $523,000. So at first glance, you might think Greenville is actually more expensive, but that number can be misleading if you don't break it down. The average includes a wide range of homes from entry level all the way up to luxury properties. And what most buyers are actually purchasing, especially if they're relocating, tends to fall closer to that $320,000 to $400,000 range, depending on lifestyle and location. So what does that really mean for you? In Florida, you're often paying $420,000 to $460,000 for a standard home. And in many cases, dealing with higher costs tied to that price point. In Greenville, you have more flexibility. You can still find homes at a lower price point, or you can step up into the higher end homes while often getting more space, better lots, or new construction. Now let's bring it all back to the monthly cost. If you compare a $450,000 home in Florida to a $350,000 home in Greenville, that's a $100,000 difference at today's rate, which is around 6.5%, and that adds up to about $600 to $700 per month, and that's $7,000 to $8,500 every year. But here's the bigger point. Even if the purchase price looks similar on paper, the total cost of owning that home in Florida is almost always higher once you factor in everything else we're about to cover. So, housing sets the tone, but it's really just the starting point of what we're talking about. All right, now let's talk about renting, because this is where a lot of people start when they move. Not everyone buys right away. Many people want to get a feel for the area first, and this is usually where they begin to notice the cost difference. So in Florida, a typical one-bedroom apartment typically runs between $1,900 and $2,400 per month. If you need more space, a three-bedroom home can easily fall between $2,900 and $3,800 a month. And in the popular areas, it can be even higher. So let's compare that to Greenville. So a one-bedroom apartment is usually between $1,250 and $1,600 a month. A three-bedroom home typically ranges between $1,800 and $2,400 a month. So right away, you're looking at a gap of about $500 to $1,400 per month, and that turns into $6,000 to $16,000 more per year just to rent. But here's the part most people don't think about. When your rent is higher, it slows down everything else. It slows down how fast you can save for a home. It slows down your ability to invest. It keeps you in the rent cycle longer. And in Greenville, lower rent gives you more breathing room. It gives you the ability to save faster, move into ownership sooner, and build equity earlier. So renting may seem like a short-term decision, but it can have long-term impact depending on where you are in your life. Now that we touched on rent, let's talk about HOA fees, because this is one of the biggest hidden costs, and it catches a lot of people off guard. In Florida, HOAs are very common, extremely common. In fact, many areas it's hard to find neighborhoods without one. Around $300 per month is considered normal, between $500 and $800 per month, and some can exceed $1,000 depending on the location and the amenities with the neighborhood. Now that means you could be paying anywhere from $3,600 to $12,000 per year in HOA fees alone. Let's talk about Greenville as a comparison. Many neighborhoods do have HOAs now. If there is one, it is usually much lower, between $50 and $150 per month. But here's the key thing to understand. HOA fees don't build equity. That money is gone every month. It doesn't increase your home value, and it doesn't help you long-term financially. So When you stack that on top of a higher home price in Florida, it becomes another layer of cost that many people don't plan for. Now we get into one of the biggest gaps between Florida and Greenville, and that's insurance. Homeowners insurance, car insurance, flood insurance. In Florida, homeowners insurance has become a major issue over the past few years. Many insurance companies have left the state, and the ones that remain have raised prices across the board. Most homeowners in Florida are paying between $6,000 and $10,000 per year, and in some cases it's even higher depending on the home and location. Let's talk about Greenville, for instance, where homeowners insurance is typically between $1,200 and $2,500 per year. That's a difference of $4,000 to $7,500 every single year. And here's what makes this even more important. This is not a one-time cost, it's recurring. And in Florida, it's been increasing year after year. So even if your mortgage stays the same, your total monthly cost can continue to rise. So, and let's move on to storm costs. I mean, that's another factor that many people overlook. In Florida, even with insurance, hurricane deductible can range from $5,000 to $15,000 per claim. On top of that, there's preparation, supplies, and additional repairs that may not be covered. In Greenville, storms happen, but the overall risk and costs are much lower. Our homeowner's insurance for our home, for instance, is only $1,100 per year. So while this may not be an annual cost, it does happen. It can be a big financial hit. So let's move on to car insurance. Car insurance is another area where Florida tends to be a little bit more expensive. Most drivers in Florida are paying between $2,400 and $2,800 per year. In South Carolina, that number is typically between $1,400 and $1,700 per year. That's a difference of $800 to $1,200 per year. And for many families with multiple vehicles, that cost can double. Now that we've talked about those, let's move on to flood insurance, because this is another cost that doesn't always show up until after you start looking seriously. In many parts of Florida, flood insurance is required. Even if it's not required by the lender, many homeowners still choose to carry it because of the risk. Typical costs range from about $800 to $3,000 per year, and in higher risk areas, it can go well beyond that. Now, you compare that to Greenville. In most cases, flood insurance is not required. It's very rare that a property falls within a floodplain, and most homeowners don't even carry it. So that's another cost that either doesn't exist or is much less common than Florida. And again, this is about stacking costs. One expense by itself may not seem like a deal breaker, but when you layer them together and on top of each other, the difference does become more clear. Good old property taxes, another piece of the puzzle, and they impact your monthly costs more than people realize. In Florida, property taxes usually fall between 0.8% and 1.1% of the home's value. In South Carolina, especially for the primary residence, that number is closer to 0.5% or 0.6%. Let's put that into real numbers. On a $400,000 home, you're looking at $3,500 to $4,500 per year in Florida. In Greenville, that same home would be around $2,000 to $2,400 per year. That's about a $1,500 to $2,000 savings every year just on property taxes. Now, this is where a lot of people get pushback. They'll say, yeah, but Florida has no state income tax. And they're right. Florida does not have a state income tax. South Carolina does. Depending on your income, that can range anywhere from about 3% up to 6.5%. So at first glance, it looks like Florida wins. But here's the key. That savings from no state income tax often gets offset by everything else we've been talking about. Higher home prices, higher insurance, HOA fees, utilities, they all add up. So while you may save on income tax in Florida, you're often paying it back in other areas, and in many cases, paying even more. In Greenville, you do pay state income tax, but your overall cost of living is lower. That gives you more control over your total monthly expenses. It's not just about what you save in one category, it's about your total financial picture at the end of the month. Let's talk about utilities for a second. It's another steady cost that adds up over time, and Florida's climate plays a big role here. Because of the heat and humidity, air conditioning runs most of the year in Florida. That pushes monthly utility bills into the $250 to $400 range. In Greenville, you still have warm summers, but they're not as long or as intense. Most homeowners fall between $150 to $250 per month. That's about $100 to $150 a month difference. And over the course of the year, that adds up to about $1,200 to $1,800 more in Florida. And while it may not seem like a huge number on its own, it becomes significant when combined with everything else that we've talked about. Now let's talk about groceries. They are one of those everyday costs that people don't always think about before they move, but it's something you feel every single week. In Florida, grocery prices tend to run 10 to 20% higher than what you will see in Greenville. A big reason for that is demand, tourism, and in many areas, higher transportation costs getting goods into certain parts of the state. Let's make this real. If you're spending around $700 per month on groceries in Greenville, that same shopping trip in Florida could easily cost you around $800 or more. That's about $100 extra every month. Over a year, that's $1,000 to $1,200 a year. Now here's where it really starts to add up. If you have a family, that number grows fast. A family spending $1,200 to $1,500 per month could be paying $150 to $300 more every single month in Florida. That's $2,000 to $3,600 more per year just on groceries. And it's not just big trips, it's the small things too. Quick stops at the store, last minute items, snacks, drinks, household goods. Those costs tend to be a little higher across the board and you feel it over time. Now compare that to Greenville. Grocery pricing is more stable and more local driven. You're not dealing with the same level of demand or seasonal pricing shifts that you see in Florida. So while groceries may not be the biggest category, it's one of the most consistent. It's something you're paying every single week for, and over time, it becomes a noticeable part of your overall cost of living. And again, it's another example of how small differences stack up into much bigger numbers by the end of the year. Parking is actually surprises a lot of people when they move to Florida, especially if they're coming from a smaller city, because in many Florida cities, parking is not free. It can range from $200 to $400 per month, depending on where you live. That's $2,400 to $4,800 per year just to park your car. In Greenville, most parking is free and in most areas, especially outside of the downtown structures. So this becomes another monthly cost that simply doesn't exist in the same way. Home maintenance is another area where climate plays a big role. In Florida, homes deal with constant heat, humidity, and storm exposure. That leads to more wear and tear on roofs, HVAC systems, and exterior materials. Homeowners often spend between $3,000 and $6,000 per year on maintenance. In Greenville, that number is typically between $1,500 and $3,000. So in essence, that's a difference of $1,500 to $3,000 per year for home maintenance between Florida and Greenville. Now let's talk about lifestyle, because this is where people justify Florida. This is the part where people say, yeah, it costs more, but the lifestyle is worth it. And that may be true for some people, but you still need to understand what that lifestyle actually costs. In many parts of Florida, especially near the coast or in the popular cities, restaurants and entertainment are priced higher. There's a big reason for that, and that is tourism. Businesses know people are coming in and spending money, so prices reflect that demand. Let's make this real. A casual dinner for two in Florida can easily run $60 to $100 without trying too hard. If you step up into nicer spots, that number climbs fast. Drinks, tips, and add-ons push it even higher. Now compare that to Greenville. You can still go out and have a great meal, but pricing is more local driven, not tourist driven. You're often paying less for the same type of experience. And it's not just dining, it's everything tied to your lifestyle. Think about it here for a second, okay? You have entertainment, you have events, gym memberships, kids activities, and weekend outings. In Florida, many of these are priced higher or come with added costs like parking, higher demand pricing, or seasonal spikes. In Greenville, lifestyle tends to be more affordable and more consistent year-round. Now here's the big picture. When your everyday lifestyle costs more, you either spend more money or you start cutting back. And for a lot of people, that's what ends up happening. They move for a lifestyle, but then don't enjoy it as much because of the cost tied to it. So when you factor it all in, dining and lifestyle alone can easily add another $1,000 to $3,000 per year in Florida compared to Greenville. And again, it's not one big expense, it's small costs adding up over time. So let's step back and look at the full picture, because this is where everything starts to make sense. We've gone through housing, we've gone through rent, we've gone through HOA fees, insurance, utilities, everyday costs, and on their own, each one may not seem like a deal breaker, but when you stack them together, the gap becomes hard to ignore. Let's walk through it again in simple terms. Housing or rent alone can add anywhere from $6,000 to $16,000 more per year in Florida. HOA fees can add $3,000 to $10,000. Homeowners insurance adds $7,000, $7,500. Then you have flood insurance, utilities, maintenance, car insurance, groceries, parking, lifestyle costs. When you total everything up, you're looking at about a $20,000 to $40,000 more per year living in Florida compared to Greenville. Now let's slow that down for a second. That's not just a number, that's real money that affects your life. $20,000 per year is over $1,600 per month. $40,000 per year is over $3,300 per month. That's the difference between being comfortable or feeling stretched, saving money or living paycheck to paycheck, investing or just covering bills. Over 5 years, that's $100,000 to $200,000. Over 10 years, $200,000 to $400,000. That's life-changing money. And here's the part most people don't think about. Even if you make more money in Florida, a lot of that increase gets eaten up by higher costs. So your quality of life doesn't always improve the way you expect. In Greenville, lower costs give you more control. You have more flexibility with your budget. You can save more, invest more, or simply enjoy life without feeling pressure every month. So when you're deciding where to live, it's not just about what you make, it's about what you keep. And that's the real difference between these two markets. I hope you enjoyed this video. Look, Florida has the beaches, and for some people that makes sense. But for many buyers, Greenville offers lower costs, more flexibility, and more buying power. So if you're trying to figure out where you should move, reach out to me. I'll help you break this down based on your situation so you can make the best decision for you and your family. If this helped you, hit that like button and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video.